There's some positive news coming out of Nepal where they have decided, lawmakers have decided to not only outlaw the custom of exiling women who are menstruating, but they're actually going to enforce it. Because it turns out that they passed these laws some time ago, but apparently there wasn't really great enforcement of it. So the ancient Hindu tradition of Chhaupadi, whereby women are confined to animal sheds during menstruation to keep impurity out of the home, was banned by the Supreme Court back in 2005. But again, it wasn't enforced properly. So now lawmakers have made the penalties for violating this law a little more harsh. Now the monthly exile during which menstruating women and those who have just given birth are denied milk and given less to eat leaves them at risk of rape and vulnerable to attacks by wild animals and extreme cold. Because they're really being thrown out of their homes and forced to live in these sheds until they're done menstruating. Now the practice has remained prevalent in Nepal's remote west and has led to the deaths of 2 teenage girls in the past year. Yeah, anyone enforcing the custom will face a 3-month jail sentence and a fine of 3,000 Nepalese rupees.
Yeah, so I believe in the culture wars, and you don't really hear a lot of people saying that, but I do. I fight cultural conservatives here in America, and I fight cultural conservatives in the rest of the world. So I'm not a big believer in religion, to say the least, any of them. And I'm not that big a believer in your traditions. Half of them are wonderful. I love Thanksgiving, and half of them are horrible, horrific, and just like. And it's interesting. The scientists have done studies of people who are liberal or conservative, and they have different values, literally, and their brains are structured a little differently. Now, so one of the things that conservatives value, and this is universal, which progressives don't put as much value on, is tradition, things being the same. That's why liberals are for change and conservatives are not. Now these are, again, they're a general way of looking at it, let's put it that way, right? So not every conservative thinks this way, of course, right? But so they value tradition for the sake of tradition, which I think, I know, I'm sorry your brain is structured that way, but you're wrong. It is an irrational position. It
isn't just for the sake of tradition, though. I mean, there were brain scans done about 5 years ago, I believe, where they looked at the differences in a conservative's brain versus a liberal's brain, right? And they noticed that the amygdala is different, and the fear center seems to be a little larger with those who identify as conservatives. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I think people who latch onto tradition don't just do so for the sake of tradition. I think they do it because change can be scary, right? And so when you've known something your entire life and then all of a sudden those traditions are changing, that makes people uncomfortable.
No, Anna, you're right, but it's actually a double whammy. There is that factor of it, fear, but there's also, it's in almost all the religions, this idea of preserving your heritage, your traditions. They view that as a part of being moral. And it actually has nothing to do with morality. It doesn't have anything to do with how you relate to other human beings and whether you're decent to them or not decent to them. And in fact, it often, like in this case, leads to deep immorality. And sometimes your traditions are based on things that were hideous, slavery, etc. And sometimes they were based on things that were in the old days rational. So for example, the reason Muslims and Jews don't eat pork is because that was a really dangerous thing to do 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago with Judaism, and then roughly 1,500 years ago with Islam. If you didn't cook the pork properly, you were going to get poisoned, you were going to die. There was a reason why that rule existed. Well, now we got a little better at cooking pork, so that's outdated, yet people still follow because tradition.
I do think that fear is based on gravitating towards some sort of literalism that will regulate what your moralistic universe will look like, right? So if somebody tells you, just keep women out in the shed so that they won't taint you, that's an easy moral universe to live in, right? Versus, okay, now what do? She's bleeding, how do we hygienically respond to this in this moment? And what does this mean in terms of child rearing and the whole sort of bag of questions that you have with like how to deal with somebody going through menstruation, right? But it's just easy to just like push the problem aside. And I think people that hold on to traditions or culture or conservatives just want an easy world to live in, maybe out of fear of like what does it look like if somebody's not telling me what to do, what to believe, what to say. It makes your life easier. Like sometimes I do wish that I had like this clean cut black and white way of looking at life, because I'm constantly thinking about what is in this moment, how do I critically think about something?
And also constantly evaluating options when you're trying to make a decision.
And it could change, things could change.
Right, exactly. But also one other, just going back to the whole thing about, women having their periods and how they're forced to go live in sheds until it's over. I mean, it's just amazing because if you are infertile, society looks down at you, right? Like you're not able to bear children anymore, and so you're not considered as valuable. And then at the same time, menstruating is a symbol of fertility, and you get punished for that as well. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
If you're a woman, for sure. It's not that easy living in the world as a woman.
Right.
So just to address whether, like Michele Bachmann is a great example of what you were talking about there, maybe because she said that she was so confused and didn't know what to do until she found Jesus, and then she just gave her life over to Jesus.
Right.
Now that doesn't make any sense. You're still making decisions, but it just gave her psychological comfort. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to make decisions anymore. I'll just pretend whatever I think Jesus said is the right answer, because Jesus, I got news for you, he's not talking to Michele Bachmann. Okay, and then to your point, Anna, look, there might have been, and part of the reason why I brought up the pork examples, there might have been an initial reason a couple of thousand years ago about the hygiene. Like, hey, if the woman who's menstruating is in the same place as the others, maybe that causes others to get sick because they didn't know how to deal with the hygiene a couple of thousand years ago, right? The answer to that is better hygiene and education.
Education,
right?
Yes.
Not, hey, let's keep doing the same stupid stuff we were doing 2,000 years ago, which has horrible effects. One of the women who died was because she was so cold out in the shed, she started a fire and then suffocated in that little hut that they had her in.
And the other girl got bitten by a snake and died as a result of that.
Yeah, and this unfortunately leads to a lot of rape. It leads to people dying from the weather conditions, etc. So, but you'll tell Hindus this part of your tradition is wrong, and the conservative Hindus will be furious and say, how dare you? It is tradition, and there's different traditions in the South Asian subcontinent where, okay, you can't shave your beard. And if you want to do that and it's voluntary on your part and you want to celebrate your culture, that at least doesn't hurt anybody. Have at it, Hawes. But there's no logic in it, right? There's no reason why you have to do it. It's just an old custom. And you're supposed to carry around a dagger if you're Sikh. I wouldn't bring it to an airport. Right? I mean, there's like all the religions have filled to the rim with nonsense. So Joe Lieberman, when he was a United States Senator, he's Orthodox Jewish, and so he can't press any buttons. He can't make anything with electricity work. So he'd make his poor assistant schlep out there to the subway to push the buttons for him so he can go into Congress. You're not tricking God. Right? So this is all just nonsense, and you can hate the messenger, that's fine. But I assure you that no sky god is looking down on you and go, oh, I can't believe they didn't put the menstruating woman in the hut.
But I mean, I will have to say that it's a little bit of a pet peeve when we outsource all the blame to the idea of faith or traditions. It's the people that are mediating these texts and trying to interpret them.
Yes.
And so I think that's the issue for me. Like, for example, when I don't drink, people say, is that because of your religion? I say no, because alcohol is poison and I know how I respond to it, so I don't want to drink. And if you look at the text, the spiritual text in Islam, the way that it's worded is trying to dissuade you from becoming intoxicated. It doesn't say alcohol outright. It does mention a type of wine, but it's the people or the community or the leaders in the community that exploit that and want to use that to control people versus people coming to the text and having an interpretation for themselves and saying, oh, wait a minute, this word was used differently or this means something else. So for me, that is like the important variable in our sort of critique of, and I'm going to be the first to critique religion, to create any sort of system that doesn't employ critical thinking, for sure.
Yeah, I hear. I agree and disagree. Yes. All these texts are open to interpretation, and you can interpret them in wonderfully positive ways. in Islam there's so much language about helping the poor, and it's one of the pillars of Islam. There's also terrible ways to interpret Islam. Same in Christianity. There's some of the greatest people on earth are nuns, etc., who are helping the poor, the needy, and then some of the worst people on earth who are like, yes, let's rush over to Armageddon and make sure everyone on the planet dies. Let's make sure the US policy is geared towards mass genocide like the world has never seen, where 7 billion people are murdered, right? So yes, it is an interpretation. That's where I agree with you. On the other hand, now this is me being agnostic and keeping it real, and we all have differences of opinion. The texts suck. They're super old. They're not true. No one talked to a sky god, and they're old rules, and some of the rules are terrible. Watch the Young Turks commercial free, download it or stream it, watch it any way you like at tytnetwork.com/join.